So another stat that's I find very interesting, and this is a stat from the University of Calgary, is around sexual harassment.
Hmm.
Now, this stat says the relationship between sexual harassment and reduced productivity has been directly established, and a person experiencing sexual harassment loses productivity equivalent to 45% of their annual salary. And
That's massive.
that is massive. You're basically a good employee who is experiencing sexual harassment is immediately working at almost half capacity.
Yeah.
And that's something where part of we get into a bit of the kind of complexities of the different like gender roles and gender gaps that exist in the workplace, is that that again this unfairly and substantially affects women over men. So it also adds to some of the pervasive problems that exist in the workplaces around the gender inequity, and a lot of it has to do with the effect of what may have been commonplace interactions in previous generations is still a horrific productivity reducing psychologically damaging reality that exists in most workplaces, and again to a point that it almost drops a person down to being a half capacity.
45%, like that is a staggering amount when you consider how, unfortunately, like sexual harassment is still a pervasive issue in the workplace. Yes, awareness is getting better. Yes, many companies are taking tangible steps to address it. Yes, there are policies that there's zero tolerance for. Oftentimes the investigation process is very complex because you need to get all your ducks in a row. You need to have you need to perform an investigation and collect your, like that takes time. And all of that situation as it's unfolding is affecting the person. And it's not only affecting their productivity, it's affecting how they relate to the organization. It's affecting whether or not their burnout, their mental health, their everything else. And it's just
well, and what we're saying is that like obviously the impact on the person experiencing sexual harassment is like you said, it's way beyond their productivity. There's so much that damages the person psychologically, emotionally, mentally. There's so much around that. But selfishly, as a business, if you shouldn't have sexual harassment because it's an awful thing, if that isn't enough to get you to do something, then selfishly realize, oh, well, you're also losing the productivity until it's addressed, until it's resolved, until you stamp it out.
Yeah.
So it's more. So this stat is a helpful way to say, yes, this is an awful thing that shouldn't exist. But if that isn't enough to invoke action, then think of it selfishly from a dollars and cents standpoint that you are
purely
losing
the business case, not just the moral imperative to do something about it. One of the ways that organizations try to get around any type of gender disparity is by making very clear performance-based incentives. Right. I mean, that's a legitimate strategy and a good one. And so that, because it should not just be subjective. I like this person more, so I'm going to pay them more. Right. It's performance based. That's, you lay it out in your performance framework that, here's what it requires in order to hit your bonus or hit your to get a pay raise, or, here's what we're looking for you to do in order to reach that promotion. We think of that as a completely gender neutral solution to this issue. But what I find interesting that you're talking about is that if sexual harassment influences performance, then it also by effect influences whether or not somebody's going to receive a promotion, receive a pay raise, even when we are trying to account for whether or not for gender equality.
Right. Yeah. Well, and this is again going back to the workplace culture impact on so many things like performance and everything like that too. Is again, if the environment tries to reward performance, but also allows, you know, these performance robbing pieces that hit certain populations more than others, then you're ingraining inequity into the workplace, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. I like that comparison. Well, I hate that comparison, but I like that comparison.